We're now testing, yes. Yes, that bottle is certainly a most interesting little device, isn't it?
What were you doing to the poor quarters?
Just giving it the spool missions, as they call in
But it
pre-listen.
didn't sound like it was getting...
Yeah, I was twiddling it by hand. It doesn't do it any harm. It likes it. It likes to get twiddled.
What is it?
Right, now we're going to change...
The quarters might be a bit odd.
The cordings at the moment has been made off-air, on the off-air mode, off the AWA modulation bilonators. Now we're going to plug it directly into the program line and see if there's any different quality. So just stand by, 5. There, it's in the off-air, the program line hole at the moment. And I think that should be right for a short time anyhow. Good. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Set the levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's quite a nice night here. Turn that down so I don't deafen myself on the side tone. Yes, now what were we talking about? The bottle beacon. The bottle beacon...
The B beacon.
The BBBC, the Bottle Beacon Broadcasting Company. And they make up all of the broadcasts for the bottle, and they do a very good job too.
Programs.
That's right, the bottle missions.
They bottle them up just like a packaged program.
Yeah, they are just packaged. They have a spot machine with varying types of bottles, and at different times of the day they put them in. Some people do think that programs are a little bit on the boring side.
Yeah.
A little bit repetitious, but then others think that you need this type of stable programming these days. But we're talking about the GX 600 Bill Sievers.
That's right.
And I think it certainly is, for what I paid for it, certainly exceptionally good money for value.
I suppose you wish it was yours in some respects.
Well, it's like this. It will be.
That's what I was thinking.
But let's see. What's its advantages? I wouldn't mind having the use of it occasionally.
Just the fact that it's got FM missions and you haven't got a portable service.
That's right. It'll be very good to listen to the Felix station when it.
Yeah.
When and if Felix gets...
Oh, look, when's the next CAT meeting? It's next week, isn't it?
Next Thursday, I think, yes. Because you'll be big... You'll be able to go to the Felix and say... Or to the Maisels and say, listen, Maisels, and you don't know a thing. And he'll go... And it'll make all his experience look like nothing.
Well, I don't know about that. Somebody said he worked at the XY missions.
What, as a big announcers?
Apparently. I can't believe it. He doesn't sound like announcers at all.
No, he sounds like...
He sounds like one of these people who thinks they're big announcers, but they're not really.
Yes, that's about it, isn't
Carry
it?
on like twits.
Yes.
Must ask him one day.
Just
so I don't get too starstruck and dazzled.
Just ask him what his qualifications are.
I mean, we know where he works now, the way he's plugging it the other night.
That's right, he must be getting extra money from that place.
Yes.
For giving advertisements.
Rather a different sort of a job to have. If he was working in radio, and then suddenly he's big computer salesman or something.
Well, this makes you wonder. You'd think once you'd worked in that sort of side of the business...
You'd be so wrapped.
Or you'd be in something to do with it.
To do with it, yeah.
But he's got nothing to do with it at all.
Just makes you wonder.
Makes you wonder whether he's playing a game. Which he is, most likely. Hang on.
I suppose I should go and get a copy of those minutes.
Well, I've had a look at the copy. Because I met Alan. You know Alan?
I thought his name was Paul.
No, the tall guy was Paul.
Paul Ellis. There's a guy called Paul Ellis who came and introduced himself to me.
Yes.
He said that he does lots of listens.
Yeah, that's the fairly tall guy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there was they're sitting next to me on that couch.
Oh, yes.
There was a guy with glasses. I think he had glasses.
Yeah, that's right.
That was Alan.
Oh, I see.
And I saw him in STU the other day, and he showed me a copy of the minutes.
Oh, is that? So you meant to say there were all these people there
that just do listens.
That do listens, or either do listens or are on 160.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that, because when I walked in the door,
yeah,
everyone sort of goes, oh, it's the and the B.
And you thought nobody would know who you were?
Oh, that's right. I didn't think I'd know anybody that was there. And sort of, I knew a lot of the people in the room, but not
Yeah.
everybody.
It was quite amazing when you think
More
about
people when I thought the cat was sort of overrun with these people
it.
that
The
knew
cat
each other.
said, "I assume it's cool, man, that you know each other, or know everybody knows everybody."
Yeah, well,
Because
that's cool.
that's cool.
That's cool, man.
You can imagine if he was on, you'd have to have super gain. You'd have to extend the Audimax. You'd hear, "Cool, cool. You're listening to COOL Missions, the cool station."
You might think they're trying to tie cigarettes.
Oh, that's right. They wouldn't be allowed to do that. Go on, 18-2.
The cat.
It could be the cat, because probably somebody told the cat to do listens just to these missions. I doubt it, but
Add to these missions and it might be
Yes.
the measles. Measles, man.
yes. Well, it certainly was quite interesting there, because everybody. I walked in and I only knew the branch, the egg, the MRSA, the measles didn't come in till later, and everybody said, look, when I walked in, everyone said things and all this. And I thought, well, what's going on here? I don't know these people. And of course, half of them were people who just listen in. And
Well, you would have had to have said something first before they would have known.
well, apparently, the egg and that said, "Oh, here comes the stew," and everyone else said, "Oh, that's the stew," and they all jumped up and down and
I see.
gave me standing ovations. And of course, then when I went to speak, they all said how I sounded like I did on air and all this sort of thing.
Well, I it was funny when I walked in, everyone goes, I sort of almost heard, so that's, that sort of comment.
That's right. Well, that's what I got.
And then, the branch said something like, oh, so the Beck did decide to come. And the city go, the Beck?
The Beck, that's the Beck. Yeah, that's right. Because when I walked in, I just sat down, and I didn't know that the phone's giving tings that it was Mari next door, next to me.
Oh, the Green might be listening tonight.
Oh, that's right. Anyway, I sat down there. I had a sneaking suspicion who it could be, and I said a comment about them, I think, and then the answer I got, it was obvious who it was. Then that guy next to me, he said, "Oh, so I've finally seen you or something." I said, "Oh, yes." And I thought, "Who are you?" And he said he was a listener who just occasionally listens in sometimes. Apparently he's got quite a lot of other people listening too.
So that's the Alan.
Apparently he records tapes of us and takes them to school the next day. Well, that's what he said on the X band that got
He wouldn't
replayed.
have wanted to of more recent times, would he?
Why is this?
Well, they have sort of gone downhill.
Oh, they have, yes, they have. They have gone downhill quite a bit, although occasionally they do come back uphill again. I think tonight's quite good for some reason, because we didn't plan anything.
Yes, that's right. If you sit there and you plan it, it just sort of wrecks.
Like, you write your scripts and nothing works out properly, and then the mitters goes for a wreck anyhow.
Suddenly, and all your lights go dim and you have to get...
I wouldn't mention that, because mitters might... He's a very
Start listening.
psychologically, like that telephone, psychologically obscure, and if you mention anything about him, a bit like some respects, he...
I don't know, let's not start
And
this.
if you mention anything about him, he might take it in the wrong vein and start to do arcs.
Arcs and sparks.
Because there's not much you can do. His overload relay is now removed. We did an operation and removed that. And the fuses are now bypassed. So the only alternative it has is to really do a spew and go on strike and blow the mains fuse.
Which it did do the other night.
Yes. The lights in the house went exceptionally dim.
Yes, well, no wonder looking at the fuse wire.
Yes.
One of the wires didn't go for a...
We would have had a bit of sag in them wires and that, I'd say.
Can you imagine a little aluminium disc
It would have...
spun around when those lights were dimming?
Yes.
Would have gone...
It could have flown right off and jammed and we wouldn't have to pay any money for power.
Tingo, mate. Tingo.
Just hang on a minute.
I'm hanging.
We just adding a little bit more pressure there. I'm just adding a little bit more max. Put max into the circle a little bit more.
Max Rolly.
Yes. In a little glass rolly booth, rolling around. Oh, I was testing out that 600 Sievers, and I tuned down to 11. And of course, there's all those people on, And one bloke says, oh, this is good, just having a civil contact instead of what these amateurs do. All they can do is talk about their linears and things. And the other guy comes on and says, oh yes, it'd be most uninteresting there because they're so restricted on the topics they can discuss.
I was listening the other night,
Yes.
and there was a couple of blokes who came on and used amateur call signs. They weren't, obviously, because just before they were pirates.
Oh, I see.
They're having this mock contact, and they're really sort of knocking the way amateurs carry on.
Oh, yes.
Just continuous knock missions.
They were going like that.
Yeah. But do you notice that one or two of these pirates sort of just dominate the airwaves?
Yes.
It's sort of like amateurs that hang around Channel 2 like Bad Smells.
That's right.
There's a few pirates that do the same sort of thing. And that's probably what cheeses me off. It's not just people having casual talks to each other, it's these
People doing...
nuisance factors that set themselves up as with big base stations and big tenors and things.
And then they start to dictate and tell everybody else how to operate.
That's right, yeah.
Like there's one not very far from us.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine there, yeah, fine on that, yeah, 10-4, yes,
See,
and,
notice how they've never got anything to say because they don't know anything even vaguely technical they can start talking
They've
about.
got
They
nothing
can't talk
technical.
about the equipment because they don't know what it is except the little
yeah, I got
trademark.
the Midland 23 channeler here,
And you
yeah,
ask them what it's like and they not that I have, but, you know, people have. I've
That's
heard
right.
them, and they sort of go, oh yeah, it's quite a good thing, I think, quite good.
I'll tell you what, that Neil fellow too, his signal is atrocious.
It's sort of, I thought it was just the GX receivers, but he does seem to take up a few bit of
Channels.
bandwidth.
Well, last night I was tuning around on 160
Yeah.
and I heard this, you know, like if you're sort of halfway between 160 and AK, you can still hear the buzz on the edges of the branches sideband sort of thing.
Yeah.
I heard this sort of, I thought it was a branch, and I tuned around and it covered the whole of, you know, the first band spread in the BC 108. This sort of off-tune 160 sound. I thought, I wonder what this is. Then I turned on the Kimberley onto that channel, and there's,
sure, well, we'll have an eyeball tomorrow, and,
and it was this guy, and his 5 watts. I hit the old max then.
I think you did rather.
The 5 watts was spreading from 11 right up to 160 metres. I reckon he must overmodulate that thing sometimes about 500%.
Splatter missions everywhere.
Exactly. It's interesting to have the BFO on when those people come on an AM. They go, pew! Then another one goes and goes, beep,
When they go off.
it's quite hilarious. They go, pew! They're just so unstable.
Well, sort of makes you wonder because they use crystals, a lot of them.
And 2 metre things don't do that. They just make a Vuz mission where it goes, pew! Pew! You don't get that in a 101 when turn them on. They just go muffle. But I'll tell you what, you know there's so much sideband on those channels at the moment.
Yeah.
You can tell whether it's a proper amateur type transceiver or one of these 27 or 23 channel things because they just sound atrocious. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have actually. Very hard to copy.
Exactly.
Unstable missions.
And they've got that sort of rough edge. Obviously they've got a cheap crystal filter or something. Because you listen to like a 101 on sideband, it sounds muffled missions, but there's not really much distortion. But these other things, they go, pew! And, oh, poor Max, hang on, got to tap the Max meter. Sorry about that. I tapped, oh, Max is, well, he's lasted 3 weeks before wrecking. Yeah, anyway, oh, yes.
Got a mitten.
A mitten connection in the Max. Yes, that's right. I think, but a friend of, hang on, this thing's gone wrecked. Is it okay? I have seen a circuit diagram of these 23 channel things, these sideband rigs, and I'll tell you one good point about them. Oh, this is getting ridiculous.
You went.
And Max had a rolly. Anyway, there's one good thing about them, and that is that on AM, they don't try and feed low-level AM and, you know, multiply it up. They actually have a proper AM modulator. In fact, like on all those phones, the amplitude modulator is also the speaker amplifier, or the audio output amp, just switches. But these things, when you go to AM from sideband, it's a proper AM transmitter. I don't know whether they switch the output to linear, or I mean to Class C or not, but that's why they're quite compatible to AM.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering about that.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine, say, on a 101 you get about 10 watts out when it is usually about 100 or something. These things that have 20, you get about 1 watt of AM out if you tried the same trick, and they're solid state, so they just go for a burn. So I suppose there's no other way. Apparently in the States, they're only limited to 4 watts of AM, so they've got this resistor in there, and they short this out and they get, full power AM.
Big resistors in.
They do sound, the sideband ones do sound rough compared to the proper, amateur things. I'll tell you who I worked down there night before last night, actually. Hang on, bad connections again. I was tuning around and I heard in Dave working Henry, VK.
Oh, not EN.
No, not that one. And a bit too high for him to try and get up to, I think. And we talked about 160 and compared our missions on 160, and it was remarkably good. So
11 metres isn't... I'd much rather have... If there was going to be a citizens band, I think it'd be much better to have it on VHF.
exactly.
Because, on CB, you can get 5 miles, or perhaps a bit further, whereas on VHF, I can talk to people all over the city,
Yes,
and it's just, FM and everything, just so much better.
this is right. And you don't get... Hang on, we're in trouble all the time now. You don't get this effect where, you can hear people interstate, but you can't hear the locals. It's just... You listen to it, and all these guys wait for the skip to come through, like, this is how I talk when I'm speaking skip. And they've got these funny ideas like, speaking skip, and how do you swir your antenna? This magical swir. They talk about swir as if it's some form of unit, don't they? I've got 2.2 to 1 or something, like they're talking
And their
amps.
readability reports to say you're 4/9,
Yes.
and all this sort of thing, whatever that's meant to mean. And they say, your readability 1, strength 5, or something stupid.
That's right,
I
yeah.
obviously just really don't know what's going on.
They've got no technical competence.
Um,
Some of them do, but most of them don't, because they go to their tea shop and buy a tea phone and just start teeing on it.
Of course, it's getting worse. There's a big thing in the paper the other day for it.
It's all for it, isn't it? Don't know why.
Look, there's even, I saw the first advertisement by an electrical store. They've got CB is here,
Like fun.
and look, it's got this big thing. They say, we now have in stock this new transceiver. This is just a normal domestic electrical store.
Yeah.
And it says in little typing down the bottom, at present you must hold an amateur or novice license.
At present. I like that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
look, all these advertisements have this word at, although the tea advertisements don't. But most of them have at present as if it's just a foregone conclusion that in a couple of months.
You know what I reckon the
And
government...
I was going past a car
Yes.
radio installing place, United Car Radio.
Ooh.
And they've got this big sign on the window saying, CB is here now.
It is?
So I didn't
Well, it
go
means
in.
it's... Yeah, that's what gets me. It would be fun, if the tea people are pushing to get it licensed, and they say, righto, it's licensed next week on UHF. They'd have a spew because they wouldn't be able to make any money from it at all.
And they wouldn't start manufacturing their own equipment.
That's right. They just have to sit there and make tuttles, I think, of all the bad work they've done. But I was at this store buying the Seavers today, and the guy's up there and he says, this one's got AM, FM, shortwave and amateur. And the guy says, oh, look, I'm not interested in amateur. And he says, I just want one with AM and FM. And I thought that was hilarious. AM, FM, shortwave and amateur. Obviously meaning marine band or something, I suppose. We should write a letter to the GX people and get them to say, instead of having, marine band, have that written across it, have, 160 metres or something written across there.
Well, of course, there's this Seavers here, this Japanese, one of these multi-band Hong Kong Japanese things.
Oh, yes.
AM Sports,
Sports.
FM Music, SW1 Ham, SW2 Worldwide. VHF-1 aircraft.
Can you hear that aircraft
It's
live?
got MB Marine. I think it should have MB Music Band.
Can you hear that aeroplane live or on?
Yes, I can hear it live. It's coming through your missions.
Yeah,
Can't hear it through your missions.
it is actually coming through. If we were quiet, the audio will bring it up. It's flown away anyhow. Yeah, this is it. The funny how they delegate those things. Yes.
But, of course, at the cast meeting last Wednesday,
Yes.
it was also the night of the final general meeting for the year.
Ah, yes, that
They
must have been
had-
quite interesting.
Well, I didn't stay for the meeting, but they had a trade display,
Ah, yes.
and the parachute man was there.
Ah, yes.
And he had on display this thing the size of a car radio.
Yeah.
And on close inspection, it was a car radio, AM/FM car radio, a set thing, and a CB all built into this thing you put in your dashboard like a car radio.
It seems like the parachute man, sells where the money is.
But I mean, just look at this. You look at the size of these tiny little knobs you've got to turn. Imagine fixing it.
I mean, it's not... I can imagine fixing it, but imagine using it. It's not transmitting, it's just pressing buttons. There's no plate tuning and all this sort of thing. Personally, myself, I don't... If it hasn't got plate tuning and loading controls, it just isn't emitters.
That mean your MR6 isn't emitters?
Yeah, I regard that as a telephone. The C42's got a sort of a tuning control.
Oh, that's all CB's meant to be, a telephone.
But how come they wait for the skip so they can talk DX
Oh, that's
and all
only
this?
some of them.
Well, what do the others do? Just say rubbish. Oh, it's really interesting, I suppose. I don't know what will happen, but it's there's so many milestones that need to be covered up before anything happens. Well, one day they might get something to happen of it.
The Nelson was on the Coombe program the other day.
The MP Coombe missions. So the Nelson went down there to see the sea. You'll be able to see them all then.
Yup.
Of course, the N is a bit of a pain.
The N. But the N's not permanent.
No, I know, but it is a bit of a... Oh, it's such a boring missions. The only good thing about him...
Look, I thought I read in the thing in the N that he doesn't listen to commercial radio. I didn't think he'd want to come on.
He really knocked it, didn't he? The only good thing about the N, in a sea of lefties, he was right. That's the only thing that was in his favour.
Because I told the Panther today that I wouldn't be coming in next Friday to do another boring missions.
Ah, yes.
Yelling away again today.
Did you do it today?
Yeah.
Oh, you said you've got a job. Did you tell her where?
Well, she goes, oh yeah, where? That's what she sounds like. I told them where it was.
Oh.
They go, oh. I see, working for the opposition.
Opposition.
So that was the end of that conversation.
In other words, you won't be... Have you heard anything about certain adjustments made to that mitters and that?
No, I haven't actually. In fact, it did sound quite pressed today.
I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't even noticed. They've probably adjusted the input, but they've probably still left the time constant. I must go in and just have a look, missions, and see. Because it's all taped over. Apart from the fact that one of the master instrument things was pinned, they probably just think it's stuck over the edge. Quite pressed. Or maybe they've got ports from places they've never reached to before, and they might leave it like that.
It's a bit ridiculous because you can't tell how much elations there is in the studio. In fact, they haven't even got a elation meter on the mitters.
Yes, that modern-looking home-built modulation meter with just the milliamp meter. That's a mod meter, apparently, modulation indicator.
That doesn't indicate peaks, does it?
Well, there's that meters like mine indicates averages, and there's a little LED on the front which also drives those mod lights around the studios for over modulation.
That's what that's for.
Yeah.
I just thought it was another thing. I mean, there's so many meters clicking there.
Yeah, they do
It looks
nothing.
all impressive, but doesn't really say very much.
And that one with all the little amplifier symbols that goes through this meter and that meter.
But that milliamp meter hasn't even got any markings as to elations on it?
The butler was telling me it's accurately calibrated.
But won't they put some numbers on it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's calibrated in milliamps. Milliamps into the meters.
Oh, how ridiculous.
Because I used to have one of these type of AWA ones, which was quite good.
They should have a peak reading one though, really.
Well, they're peak reading. You can set it to peak, read it whatever peaks you want. Can't you? Actually,
yeah, but you can't even make the lights do that. You need a meter peak reading.
I think the meter is semi-peak reading. It reads faster than the VU meter. But then again, there's, like all things...
The one at the MP missions...
Yes.
It sits there and wobbles about so quickly. It's just unbelievable. I haven't seen a meter flick.
I have seen those too, yep.
They look funny.
Yeah, they tell you what's going on.
Well, they do, yes.
Yeah. Yes, that's very interesting about what you'll be doing next week. You probably won't feel like doing crossbands, I guess, if you're doing... You'll be able to play with spots, you'll be able to come home and practice. So
Bored.
yes, I'll be practicing at home.
Slaving away over a hot Q master.
But of course you'll be able to get free spots. Free heads for your spot master.
Yeah, but they use the 906
Don't they have a CT80 there?
no. They only have Qs.
Oh, how unfortunate.
What, do you know what the number of the Qs that they use at Thingos are?
No, I don't actually. Q master. Da 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 da.
Apparently they don't use the fast Q anymore.
It's been disconnected.
It gave trouble.
They are a useless function. Apparently they do go for a wreck.
He said that they don't care about headwear or anything. But he said the frequency of the tone, the pulse, is almost the same as the stop one. So it just goes for a stop, and you press the button the next time, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
They really have to be spot on.
That's right. Of course, we'll be able to pay a visit to your new place of emissions
And you'll be
sometime.
able to see a certain person there.
Yes,
Who you,
maybe I won't pay a visit there. No.
he said come down and see him.
He did, but he said it to most people because he was drinking lots of champagne in the studio and...
Well, you will have to come down, because I mean I've dropped in on you often.
Well, you have to pay me back plenty of visitations. It's funny how whenever you do visits, I'm just sitting there either doing something that I can, not just working busy. Whereas often, if people have